all, this is Skate, and this is the T34-2G fake tank. And that kill on me had me in hysterics, so I had to put it at the start of this video. But this is the Tier 7 Chinese tank destroyer we're looking at in this video. And it's a very nice tank destroyer. It feels like a big upgrade from the Tier 6. It feels tier for tier much stronger. The mobility is just as good. In fact, it feels a lot better. The gun, you've gone up in caliber size. We're up to 122mm, and we are firing 400 alpha rounds with 192mm of penetration every 8.42 seconds. Which translates to, this tank does plenty of damage. If you're comparing it to something like an ISU 122 or the SU with said same 122mm, those tanks have a much better damage per minute. This has 2,849, that has 3,352, obviously with a rammer and full crew. But they only have 175mm of penetration. You have 192mm of penetration. You have heat with 250mm of premium penetration. They have 217 with a PCR. In other words, yes, your damage per minute is a little bit less than something bonkers like an ISU. I say a little bit. You're looking 300. Well, actually, fun fact. An ISU 122S has exactly the same damage per minute this does when the ISU 122S is firing nothing but premium rounds. Gives a bit of a perspective how potentially broken the ISU is. But that's what it's like, except this packs a 400 alpha shot at that point. That would pack a 340 if it was firing nothing but premium. Anyway, the original point I was trying to get at before I went down the fun fact, which wasn't a fun fact avenue, is the damage per minute on this is very nice considering its penetration value, and very nice considering how mobile and how small a silhouette this tank is. I mean, if you look at the size on this tank compared to that SU-152 in front, this is like the love child of an E25 and SU-122-44. In fact, the 122-44 is probably a good place to start in terms of a comparative. This thing, in comparison to that, has a better rate of fire and better penetration. Again, the SU-122-44 has 175mm, this has 192mm of penetration. This has around 100 more damage per minute, the same accuracy, little bit better accuracy on the move. This thing has better gun depression, better aiming arc, and a slightly worse aim time. So the gun is a fair comparative. Where they start to differentiate, mobility is virtually the same. I mean, one's got slightly better top speed, slightly better traverse, but has worse terrain resistances. So they're balanced in that regard, and they're very competitive in that regard. The SU-122-44, on the other hand, has 90mm of frontal armor. This only has 70. This only has 45 on the sides. The SU-122-44 has 75 on the sides. The 122-44 also has a better frontal sloping angle, which means the armor is more effective. In other words, much like the Tier 6, this thing is pretty squishy. And again, that caught me off guard, because once you've played the 120 Tier 8 Chinese tank destroyer, this feels like that. In terms of its gun, in terms of its mobility, it feels like that tank. However, the armor on that thing for what it's got in mobility and gun is so damn broken that you imagine when you start playing this that you feel like you're in the same tank, but you're not. This thing's shockingly squishy. And as a result, if you play way too aggressively in this thing, you're going to get hurt. Now, you can play this aggressively, but you need to be very careful not to take as many shots in response. So if you're playing this thing aggressively, I would accompany the mediums. As with the Tier 6, it had like, what, 26 degrees of of track traverse. This thing has 37 without all the extra provisions, equipment, consumables, blah, 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 blah. So it means this thing can traverse, which means although it doesn't have the armor, it is really irritating for medium tanks who attempt to try and circle this thing. And because it has that mobility and it packs big alpha shots, any medium who screws with this tank does quickly regret it. Because you can't easily get behind this thing. Getting behind this, you can traverse very quickly. And that does mean a world of pain for said medium tanks, unless they catch you off guard and they manage to get completely behind you and you don't react to it in time. But when you're playing turretless tank destroyers, you should always be aware of what's going on around you, and that's it, regards to any tank destroyer who's turretless. All that said and done, I still preferred to play this thing at a medium range. And the reason for that being is it does remove any risk of medium tanks even attempting to get close to you. And it means you can play a brilliant support role. And then after playing my support role, or if while playing my support role I don't have targets to shoot at, it means you can go a bit more gun-ho. I mean, I like to roll this thing as a support role first off. Or if there's a big pack of mediums, you can roll with them and stay behind them or stay next to them and try not to be the one focused, but while trying to be a brilliant support for your team. Or, if none of those work and I have no targets to shoot at like the first game, you just keep pushing. This shot cracks me up, by the way. Here comes a Wolverine. Check out the damage we do to him on the side. Are you ready? Look. 6 modules damage. How annoyed would you be? At that point, his tank is just... it's just a big metal box. It can't do anything. Everything is dead inside. But yeah, the other thing... it's wrong, but it's amusing. But yeah, trying not to be the focal point. Keeping your gun going non-stop is exactly what you need to be doing. If you're in the tier 8 premium version of this thing, then, well, you've got the armor to just go gun-ho, wiggle, 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 gun-ho again. In this, you can go gun-ho, and you are going to lose hit points if you can't get a solid object between you and whatever you're firing at. So if you can stick your gun around with that quite respectable gun arc of 12 degrees either side, get a shot off and tuck it back in while they're trying to return fire, or while they're trying to make their way to you then, you're hopefully reloaded by that point, ready to put another shot in. Which is effectively exactly what happened in the first game. In this one, the tank is in its absolute element. I'm in a support role, I'm getting shots off, I am ripe with targets because of the positioning in the middle. You just have to go in a big circle pointing outwards to fire at things and to find things. And when you don't, that's when I can go hunting. But if I had no hit points, I can't go hunting. Because having no hit points and going hunting means you are very easy to deal with. And attempting to go hunting right now would literally just result in me losing huge chunks of hit points. As with this sort of range, I'm unspotted till I fire, which means anything that pokes their nose, I can make a big old mess of them. Sometimes, however, the circumstances don't allow you to do that. For example, it's very obvious that T29 is pushing my last heavy, that ARL. I don't have a choice. That ARL will die to the T29 unless he has support and help. Now as soon as I do, I get spotted, which that T29 now knows there's 2 of us here and he backs off a little bit. The M41 Bulldog comes in. Sadly, he's getting shot from multiple angles, which is why we need to push now as well. We've got the SP1C taken care of, however he's taken too much of a hit. And the WZ-131 on the enemy team does finish him off. We need to deal with a couple of these tanks very quickly. I've lined up ready because you could see who's going to poke his nose here, but by him poking his nose there and me pointing that direction means he has backed off. T29's backed off. I need to make a push from one of these. Logically, I could just splash this guy with the HE, so maybe worth taking a hit or 2 in the butt to try and get around here and deal with him. He does run off, and I make a mistake by here. I didn't know that guy was behind me, so that's not a mistake yet. Poking my nose around here, when I'm still spotted. There's 2 tanks in the cap circle. I do take care of one. The ARL does finish one off. However, the Jagdpanzer, or the Flat Panzer at the back, is about to deal with him. And I've just taken a huge smack to the face, which has now left me versus the KV-3 and the Flat Panzer. And this is exactly when the mobility comes into its own. I don't know where the Flat Panzer is, however the Flat Panzer is also a mobile little tank with a fantastic camo value. I want to deal with this KV-3 before the Flat Panzer pokes his nose. We've spotted the Flat Panzer's spotted us. I was hoping he'd poke his nose here, but he's not going to do that. You can see he's waiting, which means I'm going to go and try and deal with this KV-3. He is coming for me. I can snap a shot off quickly and deal with him. And the Flak Panzer is going to use that as his opportunity to push me. So I'm going to position up, line up ready. You can see I've positioned my tank on the left on the expectation he's coming that way, but keeping an eye on the right, and we do manage to quickly snap one off and finish the Flak Panzer. That, as a result, puts us on just over 4,020 damage. And with 6 kills. Actually, one thing I haven't mentioned in this video, in these I am running my gun rammer, I am running the defense system, and I'm running improved optics, which again I later changed for camo net. In terms of the grind and what order, I would personally recommend getting the engine and tracks first before getting the gun. You need that mobility to keep you alive. There's no point having a nasty gun if you can't get out of the way of return fire. I think that pretty much sums up the T34-2G fake tank. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye bye.